The concept of non-human persons has sparked considerable debate and controversy across various fields, including philosophy, ethics, law, and animal rights. This term generally refers to entities that are not human but are granted certain rights or considerations typically reserved for humans. The idea challenges traditional views on personhood and raises fundamental questions about the nature of rights, consciousness, and our responsibilities toward other living beings. One of the central controversies surrounding non-human persons is the question of what constitutes personhood. Traditionally, personhood has been closely associated with being human. However, as our understanding of other species, particularly great apes, dolphins, and certain birds, has evolved, it has become increasingly clear that some non-human animals possess traits that we typically associate with personhood. These traits include self-awareness, the ability to experience emotions, complex social structures, and even a certain level of moral reasoning. For instance, research on great apes such as chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans has shown that these animals possess a high degree of intelligence, self-awareness, and emotional complexity. They can use tools, solve problems, and even demonstrate a form of empathy. Similarly, dolphins are known for their advanced communication skills, complex social behaviors, and the ability to recognize themselves in a mirror, a classic test of self-awareness. These findings have led some scholars and activists to argue that such animals should be considered persons in a legal and moral sense, deserving of certain rights and protections. However, this idea is not without its critics. One of the main arguments against granting personhood to non-human animals is that it could undermine the special status that humans have long held in both legal and moral frameworks. Critics argue that extending personhood to non-human animals could lead to a slippery slope, where the distinction between humans and other animals becomes increasingly blurred. This, they claim, could result in a devaluation of human life and complicate legal and ethical decision-making. Moreover, there is the issue of where to draw the line. If we grant personhood to great apes and dolphins, what about other animals that also exhibit signs of intelligence and emotional complexity, such as elephants, parrots, or even certain species of octopus? The criteria for personhood are not clear-cut, and this ambiguity has fueled the controversy. Some argue that personhood should be based on specific cognitive and emotional capacities, while others believe it should be tied to the potential for moral agency or the ability to participate in social contracts. Another significant controversy is the legal implications of recognizing non-human persons. In recent years, there have been several high-profile legal cases in which animal rights activists have sought to grant legal personhood to certain animals. One notable example is the case of a chimpanzee named Tommy in New York. In 2013, the Non-Human Rights Project filed a lawsuit on behalf of Tommy, arguing that he should be recognized as a legal person with the right to bodily liberty. The case ultimately failed, with the court ruling that personhood is a status reserved for humans. However, the case sparked widespread debate about the legal status of animals and the potential for recognizing non-human persons within the legal system. Those who support the idea of non-human persons argue that recognizing certain animals as legal persons would provide them with greater protection under the law. For example, it could prevent them from being subjected to cruel treatment, used in experiments, or kept in captivity. This would represent a significant shift in how we view and treat animals, moving away from seeing them as mere property or resources to be used by humans, and towards recognizing them as individuals with their own rights and interests. On the other hand, opponents of this idea worry that granting legal personhood to animals could have far-reaching and potentially problematic consequences. They argue that it could open the door to a host of legal challenges and complications, such as disputes over animal rights versus human rights, or the question of how to enforce these rights in practice. There is also the concern that recognizing non-human persons could lead to an overwhelming number of legal claims on behalf of animals, potentially clogging up the court system and diverting resources from other important issues. Beyond the legal and philosophical debates, there is also a significant ethical dimension to the controversy over non-human persons. At its core, this issue raises questions about our responsibilities towards other living beings and how we balance these responsibilities with our own needs and interests. Many animal rights activists argue that humans have a moral obligation to recognize and protect the rights of animals, particularly those that demonstrate advanced cognitive and emotional capacities. They believe that failing to do so is a form of speciesism, an unjust discrimination based on species membership, rather than relevant characteristics such as intelligence or the ability to suffer. Critics of this view, however, argue that there are important differences between humans and other animals that justify treating them differently. They point out that while some animals may exhibit traits such as intelligence or emotional complexity, they do not have the same moral agency or capacity for ethical reasoning that humans possess. Therefore, they argue it is appropriate to grant humans a special status and to prioritize human rights and interests over those of other animals. This debate also touches on broader questions about the nature of rights and how they should be applied. Some argue that rights are inherently tied to certain capacities, such as the ability to make choices, understand consequences, or participate in social contracts. From this perspective, only beings that possess these capacities should be granted rights, which would exclude most non-human animals. Others, however, believe that rights should be based on the ability to experience suffering or well-being, in which case many animals would qualify for at least some basic rights. The controversy over non-human persons is further complicated by the diverse cultural and religious perspectives on the issue. In some cultures, certain animals are revered and granted a special status, while in others, animals are seen primarily as resources to be used for human benefit. Religious beliefs also play a significant role in shaping attitudes towards animals and the concept of personhood. For example, some interpretations of religious texts suggest that humans have a unique role as stewards of the earth, with a responsibility to care for animals but not to grant them the same status as humans. Other religious perspectives may emphasize the interconnectedness of all living beings and argue for a more inclusive view of personhood that extends to certain animals. The scientific community also plays a key role in this debate, particularly in terms of researching and understanding the cognitive and emotional capacities of animals. As our knowledge of animal behavior and intelligence has grown, so too has the argument for recognizing some animals as non-human persons. However, the scientific community is not monolithic, and there is ongoing debate about the implications of this research and how it should inform our ethical and legal frameworks. In recent years, there has been growing interest in exploring the legal recognition of non-human persons in other contexts as well, such as artificial intelligence and robots. As technology advances and machines become increasingly sophisticated, some experts have begun to question whether certain forms of AI or robots could eventually qualify as non-human persons. This idea raises many of the same philosophical, legal, and ethical questions as the debate over animal personhood, and it adds an additional layer of complexity to the controversy. In conclusion, the concept of non-human persons is a deeply controversial and multifaceted issue that touches on a wide range of philosophical, legal, ethical, and cultural questions. It challenges traditional views of personhood and raises important questions about our responsibilities towards other living beings. While there are compelling arguments on both sides of the debate, there is no consensus on how to define personhood or whether non-human animals should be granted this status. As our understanding of animals and technology continues to evolve, the debate over non-human persons is likely to remain a contentious and ongoing issue for years to come.